On June 22, 1941, 3.8 million Axis soldiers crossed into Soviet territory along a front stretching 2,900 kilometers, the largest military invasion in the history of human warfare. In the first 8 hours, the Luftwaffe destroyed 1,200 Soviet aircraft. Most of them never left the ground. Did Stalin see it coming? No. Did the Red Army have orders to resist? No. Did anyone in Moscow believe it was actually happening? No. Hitler gave his generals 18 weeks to destroy the Soviet Union. Not occupy it. Not defeat it. Destroy it, completely, irreversibly, before the first snow fell. The operation had a code name, Barbarossa. It had a deadline, October 1941. And it had one catastrophic assumption buried inside it that nobody in the Wehrmacht was allowed to question: that the Soviet state would collapse the moment its front lines broke. Why did Hitler believe a nation of 196 million people would simply stop existing after one hard punch? Why did the most advanced military machine in the world run out of winter uniforms by November? And why did the Red Army, routed, encircled, losing 500,000 men in a single battle, refuse to behave like a defeated enemy? The answers don't just explain what happened in 1941. They explain why Germany was already losing a war it thought it was winning. Before we continue, please consider subscribing and liking the video to support the channel. Barbarossa was not reckless improvisation. It was a calculated bet, built on one piece of intelligence the Wehrmacht trusted completely: that the Soviet military was hollow. The purges of 1937–38 had eliminated 35,000 Red Army officers, including 3 of 5 marshals and 13 of 15 army commanders. German analysts concluded the USSR had been decapitated. They were right. What they missed was that decapitation doesn't kill an army. It just makes it brutal and desperate instead of organized and precise. The German plan required 3 army groups to advance simultaneously: north toward Leningrad, center toward Moscow, south toward Ukraine. Each was assigned objectives hundreds of kilometers apart, to be reached in weeks. The supply chain for 3.8 million men stretched back to Germany across roads that past the Soviet border turned to mud with the first rain. The plan assumed Soviet collapse. The Soviets never read the plan. In the first 7 days of Barbarossa, Army Group Center advanced 450 kilometers. The Minsk pocket alone trapped 320,000 Soviet soldiers, 3,300 tanks, and 1,800 artillery pieces. By any historical metric, it was one of the most devastating opening campaigns in military history. German officers were writing home that the war would be over by August. But something was wrong beneath the numbers. The encirclements were vast, and emptying them took time the Wehrmacht didn't have. German infantry, marching on foot at 30 kilometers per day, couldn't keep pace with the panzer spearheads racing ahead. Pockets were closing, but slowly. And from inside those pockets, Soviet soldiers who should have surrendered kept fighting. Not from orders, but from something the German army had no tactical category for. They simply didn't stop. The Wehrmacht was winning every battle. It just couldn't figure out why the enemy kept existing. For the first days of Barbarossa, Stalin was functionally absent. Witnesses reported he retreated to his dacha on June 22, convinced the invasion was either a provocation or a catastrophic misunderstanding. When Molotov and the Politburo arrived, he reportedly believed they had come to arrest him. Paralysis at the top of a nation of 196 million people being invaded by 3.8 million soldiers. Then something shifted. On July 3, 11 days after the invasion began, Stalin spoke to the Soviet people by radio for the first time. He called them not comrades but brothers and sisters. The change was not accidental. Soviet industrial infrastructure began rerouting east, beyond the Ural Mountains, beyond Luftwaffe range. Between July and November 1941, over 1,500 factories were dismantled and relocated east by rail. The state was not collapsing. It was relocating. Hitler planned for a Soviet government that would break. Stalin broke briefly, then moved an entire industrial civilization out of reach. By August 1941, the Wehrmacht had advanced further and faster than any army in history. It had also outrun everything that kept it alive. German supply lines stretched 1,000 kilometers from the Polish border. The Soviet rail gauge was 89 millimeters wider than the European standard. meaning every captured rail line had to be manually relayed before German supply trains could use it. The process took weeks per kilometer. Meanwhile, panzer divisions consuming 300,000 liters of fuel per day were waiting. Hitler's generals presented him with a choice in late August that revealed the fatal flaw in Barbarossa's design. The army was too spread across 3 objectives to decisively take any of them. Field Marshal von Bock needed to push to Moscow. Hitler ordered the panzers south to Kiev instead. The Kiev encirclement captured 665,000 Soviet soldiers, the largest single encirclement in history. It also cost Germany 6 weeks it would never recover. Kiev was the greatest tactical victory of the Eastern Front. It was also the decision that made Moscow unreachable before winter. By late September 1941, 100 days into Barbarossa, the Wehrmacht had captured 3 million Soviet prisoners, destroyed an estimated 15,000 Soviet tanks, and stood within striking distance of Moscow. On paper, Germany was winning a war of annihilation on a scale never seen in human history. Beneath the paper, the reality was different. German casualties since June 22nd had reached 750,000, more than in all previous campaigns of the war combined. Panzer divisions that crossed the border with 300 operational tanks averaged fewer than 70 by October. The Luftwaffe had lost 1,600 aircraft. And by November, temperatures had dropped to -20 degrees Celsius, Wehrmacht soldiers fighting in summer uniforms, oil in tank engines freezing overnight, rifles requiring heating before they would fire. In December, the 2nd Panzer Division reached Khimki, close enough to see Moscow. The closest Germany would ever get. The first 100 days of the Eastern Front produced numbers that still resist comprehension. 3 million Soviet prisoners. 750,000 German casualties. A front line expanding from 2,900 kilometers at invasion to over 3,500 by November, across which 2 of the largest armies ever assembled tore each other apart with an intensity the Western Front never approached, never matched, and never understood. What those 100 days established was not a German victory or a Soviet defeat. They established the terms on which the entire war would now be fought, terms Germany had not chosen and could not survive. A war of attrition. A war of industrial production. A war where the side that could replace its losses faster would eventually win, regardless of tactical brilliance, regardless of generalship, regardless of everything the Wehrmacht had been built to do. Germany had the better army. The Soviet Union had the better arithmetic. The Eastern Front didn't decide who would win World War II in its first 100 days. It decided who couldn't. The Wehrmacht crossed that border believing it was ending a war. It was beginning its own.